That's talking about XP as a reward, and we can have a look at things like honor, glory, and status as rewards as well. Honor is generally awarded for sacrificing for honor, for doing things above and beyond, and things like that. So it should require some kind of sacrifice, either of your own personal needs or desires, and sometimes putting the character at some kind of risk. So like a physical danger or actually taking damage, which they didn't need to take. Trifling is 1 point. A minor sacrifice would be 3, major 6, and massive can be 9. And you can also get boosts or sometimes losses due to resolved ninjo, which you have established ahead of time. So that can be another way of getting a reward for honor.
Right. Normally, you award honor right after they do an honorable action. Now, things can happen where you have extremely high honor characters, especially people who want to get their honor and they don't spend it a lot. When you get to this very high-end characters, you don't want to be topping out the scale over 100 because the scale only goes up to 100.
Indeed.
And this has been a problem for L5R through all the additions. And in old 5R, they resolved it with a law of diminishing returns that I still think is effective for new 5R. After a certain point, an honorable character is expected to act honorably and expected to perform sacrifices for their honor. So depending on your campaign, for these characters, if they are being really super honorable, especially if they're not getting hit with a lot of honor penalties, you can slow down their honor gain. I suggest this like after rank 65 or rank 80, so that it takes a minor sacrifice to get a 1 point honor gain. It takes a major sacrifice to get a 3 point. Yeah, you're shifting everything down. It takes a massive sacrifice to get a 6 point honor gain. And then you can potentially do that again at the next honor rank up. Just slow that down, so not giving Zenny to every peasant that comes along gets you another point of honor.
Yeah, we've discussed in previous discussions on honor that 4th ed had a rather nice honor table, which obviously doesn't quite translate to 5th edition, but does give some ideas of what is considered honorable will change as you go up. Because if you are just in the middle, then pretty much anything is considered honorable because everyone's going, oh, that guy's doing an honorable thing. Didn't expect that of them. Well done. But when you get into the 80s, you are expected to behave in certain ways. And some things that actually were honorable previously, now that you're such a shining paragon, there's a couple of things of accepting dishonorable behavior from your lord is honorable at lower levels because that's you putting duty ahead of your own feelings. But when you get into the 80s, you're such a shining paragon of honor that you should not allow people to do that. And that, which is an interesting change. And I think it's worth looking at just to get the ideas of how things can change at the high levels.
Just as a reminder, we've talked about it before, losses of honor should be forecast ahead of time. Gains of honor, however, do not have to be forecast. But be sure to tell the PC, look, you're doing something risky. Let them know that you recognize that they put themselves at the invulnerability. They're taking the risk. And also have NPCs or encounters that advantage those with high honor. And then NPCs or encounters that advantage those with low honor. That means that it doesn't matter if your party has dispersed honor. Some people have high, some people have low. You can let them differentiate that way.
Yes, actually having people and situations that make that honor score feel good is going to make it feel like a reward. So it's all very well having high honor just sitting there on your character sheet, but having a situation where that comes into the fore and that helps you, that is going to make that honor gain feel better.
So we talked about honor in terms of a reward. So maybe we should talk about glory in terms of a reward.
Yeah, I think that's, of the three, I think that's probably the one that comes across most as a reward. Honor is very internal as to whether how you feel about yourself, but glory is you did a thing and everyone's talking about you, and that's awesome. You do mighty deeds and people start talking about you and your glory goes up.
Even if you are a Ronin scum.
Absolutely.
especially if you are.
Yeah, Miyamoto Musashi became very famous, and he was a Ronin for quite a lot of that. So
Exactly. So glory, generally you would want to award glory at the end of the adventure or after word of your PC's heroism has spread in some fashion. But everybody's always watching. That's one thing in Rokugan. Everybody is keeping an eye on you and gossiping about you. So it can spread quickly. One thing that can happen is that if you are awarding generously on the glory front, which is great, you can end up more famous than the emperor, which, it has the same problem of this scale. Glory in the past did not quite have the same diminishing returns in some ways that honor did, but one thing that they did in Heroes of Rokugan that works is you can have a glory score penalty at the beginning of a new adventure when there's been a significant downtime, because you lose glory when you are not in the public eye. You're sitting at home, people have stopped talking about you and gone on to the next big hero. So, it would be typical to have a penalty, maybe of even half a rank or something between adventures.
Yeah. Fourth Ed had that. It had a penalty if you hadn't done anything that got you a glory bonus in a week or a month. Something in this time period, if you haven't done something that boosted your glory, went down a bit. So that makes sense. Unless you're constantly out in the public eye, you will gradually lose the interest. So obviously you don't get glory for things that people don't hear about. So if you're being sneaky beaky, people won't necessarily hear about your mighty deeds. So minor glory awards would be about 3, major 6, and a massive 9. So that's the kind of scale you're looking at. And if you resolve a giddy, which is a specific duty given to you by a lord, that can give you a large boost, up to 10 or possibly even more.
We talked a little bit about an honor penalty between campaigns. Another thing that you might want to think about so that you don't become more famous than the emperor is thinking or considering glory diversity with regards to extremely high glory characters. So this would again be like 65 or 80 glory characters. People want to be entertained. If you are a famous duelist who has won much glory for their duels, and you win yet another duel, it's not going to bring you a whole lot of new glory. If you are a famous gift giver and you give yet another awesome gift, have you outdone yourself? No, then it's old news. So people have an expectation that they will do the thing that they're famous for, and that means they'll get less glory for doing that exact thing. And if they fail in that specific thing that they are normally getting glory for, that is even bigger failure, because you're the famous duelist and you lost. You must suck. And he gets more glory for it. However, if you are the famous duelist and you do something different that would earn you a bunch of glory, not necessarily dueling, you would get the full measure of your glory. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. When you get super famous, it's harder to get even more super famous.
So you can still reward them if they do something other than their normal thing that is, extra glorious. Like that courtier who's famous in court suddenly got involved with a fight with an Oni. That would be very glorious.
So generally, unless one player character is trying to stay out of the spotlight, I think most of your PCs are going to be about the same. You probably aren't going to have the problem of one character having hugely more glory than the other. As with honor, losses of glory should be broadcast ahead of time. They should know this is going to cost you some glory. This is going to besmirch your reputation. But gains don't have to be, and maybe they shouldn't be. Maybe that's one of the fun ones to be given unexpectedly. And also having people go, "Oh, I've heard of you. Gosh, all your amazing adventures." I think that's a thing you will want to throw in from time to time, so that people really feel the impact of getting all that glory and getting those rewards, and reminding them of the cool things they've done, actually, as well. A really important part of rewarding a player is giving them that recognition.